Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am your host, Memo, and I'm going solo dolo today. Hoops could not join me for this episode. We're actually texting right now. That's why I looked down. But I'm here to talk about what's been going on in the NBA Cup. A lot has happened since our last episode, which has been a couple weeks. It's been a while. The last episode that we recorded, there was some technical difficulties. The file got corrupt, so we couldn't upload the episode at all, which was a great episode. We were ranting about the Clippers and how garbage they are, waving Chris Paul. We were talking about LeBron's 10-point streak ending. It was a good episode. Unfortunately, we could not save it at all, which I wish we could have, because it was a really good episode. I was really proud of that episode, and it was such a fun conversation in general. And unfortunately, we're not going to have a conversation today because it is just me. But, I'm excited to talk about some NBA Cup basketball today, even though most of the games were kind of ass. To be honest, they sucked. But, I'm still going to go through each game, recap them, maybe speed through some of the ones that, were a little bit on the boring side. And then at the end, I will try my best to make my prediction on who will end up winning the NBA Cup, the Spurs or the Knicks. Spoiler alert, oopsies. They are in the NBA Cup. I will talk about who I think will win it. But based off of my track record, I'm not very good at making these predictions. I don't know if you remembered from the last episode, but we made a little draft, our predictions on who will win the NBA Cup. We both chose 4 teams. Hoops chose OKC, Magic, Knicks, Spurs. I chose the Lakers, Heat, Raptors, Suns. And all of my teams got bounced in the first round, which is insane and very unfortunate for me because, we did a little wager where now on the next episode, when we're covering the NBA Cup, I will have to wear an Elvis Presley wig for the entire episode. So that's gonna be embarrassing, but it'll be a fun episode, so make sure to tune in. We might actually upload that episode early, just so it could be a lot more relevant to the news cycle. We usually drop every Monday. This episode's clearly not being uploaded on a Monday. I'm recording on a Monday actually, but it'll be up the same day as the NBA Cup. And then we're planning on dropping the next episode on Friday, just because that's how our scheduling kind of worked out. That was the best time for both of us. So stay tuned for that. We'll cover the NBA Cup on Friday, and whoever ended up winning. I kind of said that weirdly. Whatever. But let's get started. We're going to actually start on the East. I think the first NBA Cup was Heat versus Magic at Orlando. So we will talk about the East first. We'll go over both of the rounds and stuff. But let's talk about Heat versus Magic, which wasn't the most entertaining game, but it was interesting at first. The Heat actually were on fire to start the game. They started with a 15-0 run. They had a great first quarter. Unfortunately for them, the second quarter is where the Magic, came back, and it kind of just snowballed into a Magic victory from there. The second quarter for them was very, very strong. Outscored them 39-27 in the second quarter. Desmond Bain had 10 points in the second, and kind of led the charge to not only the comeback, but ended up, I believe, taking the lead in the second. And I say 10 points but it felt like a lot more, honestly. Like, it felt like Desmond Bane was everywhere offensively, just draining buckets left and right. He had several, like, impressive threes and easy layups. So, it felt like a lot more than 10 points, especially since he ended up with 37 throughout the entire game. I kind of thought he scored most of his points in the second, but no, that was just the start, I guess. So, yeah, Desmond Bane and others, there were some other players that kind of helped, um, during that run in the second quarter to help, you know, catch up to the Heat and take the lead as well. Like, Suggs had a good game. Paulo didn't have the greatest game, but it was decent, and he did help during that second quarter run, of course. But yeah, they did a good job there in the second. It kind of just carried over throughout the rest of the game. There was no way the Heat was catching up. They were struggling a lot defensively. Like, that's how Desmond Bane had so many like easy layups, because like there was no defense being played, and offensively it was a poor offensive night for the Heat. They shot 24% from three. Their best scorers, Hero and Norman Powell, had pretty poor shooting nights. Hero had a 7 for 17 game, only 20 points. Couldn't make a three to save his life. 0 for 6 from beyond the arc. Damn, I can't speak. Powell, 8 for 19, 21 points for him. Just not so efficient games for either of these two players. And, with them being the best offensive guys on the roster, they're kind of screwed in general. If, oopsies. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm on ESPN, so I was just double checking the box score. But yeah, the Heat offense was really struggling, especially with their two scorers struggling. Andrew Wiggins had a good game. Bam had a good game. They both chipped in with 19, and with like decent shooting splits. But again, it's nothing compared to like the Desmond Bane 37 bomb. Jalen Suggs, not known as an offensive guy, but when he's like making his shots, he can come through with a 20, which he did in this game. Paulo, again, not a perfect game for him, but chipped in with 18 points. And they did all this without Franz Wagner, which is the impressive part. So, yeah, this ended up being a pretty solid win for the Magic, and they move on from here to face the winner of either Knicks or Raptors, and we all know that the Knicks ended up winning this one. This one was actually kind of a similar story to the Magic and Heat game, where the Raptors were actually winning in the first quarter. They outscored the Raptors outscored the Knicks a little bit in the first, but it was the second quarter where the Knicks really shined and outscored the Raptors by a lot, 34-13 to be exact. Brunson was going off. He had 26 points in the first half. 26 of his 35 points in the first half. Brandon Ingram was trying his best out there. He had 19 points in the first half, 17 in the first quarter, which is insane. But, the rest of the team did not come through. They were all struggling from 29% from the 3-point line. Scotty did not have a great offensive game. He only had 13 points, 6 of 18 shooting. Just a very, very poor shooting night from him. And yeah, not much else to say. It's just like another dominant game from Brunson. When the pressure is on, Brunson usually comes through, and of course had the game high 35. And, his teammates chipped in. Josh Hart was the second leading scorer on the team with 21 points. OG, Karl Anthony Towns, their shooting splits weren't the best, but they chipped in with 13, 14. Mikal Bridges as well. I should add him to the list. His shooting wasn't the best either. But he ended up chipping in 15. So yeah, although the rest of the team did chip in a bit, it was mainly the Jalen Brunson show. He was the one that, kind of carried the team to a victory, a pretty dominant victory. It ended up being 117 to 101. That's a pretty good margin. They did a pretty good job. Well, again, the Raptors, other than Ingram, there was no offensive help. Actually, Jamal Shed, my bad, did pretty good. Had 18 points, but it wasn't enough help. So the Knicks ended up beating the Raptors. Then we had the Magic facing the Knicks, which they actually played recently, I think, for an NBA Cup game as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it was an NBA Cup game. I do remember Desmond Bane was pissed off during that game and chucked the ball at OG when he was out of bounds. That was hilarious. Luckily, no ball chucking in this game, but it was a very competitive game for the most part. But yeah, especially in the first half. I guess the first half was definitely more competitive, where it was basically the Suggs and Brunson show. Both of those players had 25 points in the first half. Unfortunately, the hot streak for Suggs couldn't continue. He only had 1 point in the second half. To be fair, though, he was hobbling a bit. He did not seem right. But the Magic definitely missed him out there because he was the one that was sparking the fire for this team in the first half. So they really needed him to be at his best, and unfortunately he couldn't. But yeah. Looking at the box score, Paulo Banchero, 25 points on 22 shots. Not the best efficiency. 0 for 7 from 3. That's horrendous. I know that I'm sure he's not proud of that. But yeah, even with the poor shooting from Paulo, this was pretty competitive. There was 11 lead changes, 10 ties throughout the game. It was in the third, though, where the Knicks started to take off. They had a 10-point run in the third quarter, late in the third quarter, which helped them out and ended up getting the victory, of course. And in this game, the Knicks, from at least the starters, they did a lot better in this game than they did in the previous game. OG had 24, Towns had 29, Josh Hart only had 12 points, but he did good in the first game, so we'll give him a pass. Bridges only 16, 13 shots, not the best, but OG and Cat came through on this one, and of course Brunson did. Not only did he have 25 points in the first half, he ended up with a 40 bomb. I believe this is his season high. He is no stranger to having amazing high scoring games when it matters the most. And yeah, it ended up being well needed for this game in order to take down the Magic, who are a great defense, but of course are struggling offensively, especially with Franz out. That does not help. We talked about Paulo's poor shooting, does not help. And yeah, Suggs getting hurt does not help. Bane was also not the best offensively. He had 18 points, but it took him 17 shots to get there. So Yeah, I'm sure they missed France for this game because they needed some more offensive juice to take down the offensive juggernaut that is the Knicks. The Knicks are insane offensively. They are ranking up in the standings, and they are looking like the favorites going into the NBA Cup now that they defeated the Magic and now are going to be playing for the Cup. And they made the Cup Finals after this win. So, congrats to the Knicks for making it. Now let's go to the West Coast, the best coast, starting with Suns and OKC. We'll keep this one short. This was belt to ass. This was no contest. This was an embarrassment because damn, OKC just whooped them. Just whooped them for no reason. Like they didn't need to go that hard. Like point differential doesn't even matter at this point. Like you didn't need to go off like how they did. They ended up winning 138-89. Damn. It definitely does not help that Devin Booker did not play. He has an injury. And then their best player other than Booker is Dylan Brooks at the moment. And he had a team high 16 points. 16 points as a team high? Are you kidding me? And it took him 16 shots to get there. 16 points, 16 shots for Dylan Brooks. That's really, really sad. Yeah, there were only two players on the Thunder that had more than 16 points. Jalen Williams was close, though, with 15. But, come on. This was an embarrassing game for the Suns. I thought they'd do a lot better. I think they had a more competitive game earlier this season. The Suns were looking like a surprise team in the West. And they still are. Like, they still look pretty impressive compared to last year. But, man, this was an embarrassing ass whooping. It got so bad that, like, Grayson Allen, did Grayson Allen things, was rage quitting. He shoved Chet to the ground, got ejected. J Dub was making fun of him, saying, "You mad? You mad?" And yeah, like that's how badly the Suns lost. Like they were pissed off. Grayson Allen rage quit. It was basically the lion and the chimp meme. Like OKC was the chimp doing this while the lion was roaring at them, all pissed off. Yeah, this was embarrassing. So with this victory, OKC tied for the best start in NBA history, tying with the Warriors after 25 games. They both had a 24-1 record. So yeah, this was big, very big, but later on did not become big. We'll go over that soon. But next, let's talk about the Spurs versus the Lakers. This was also kind of an embarrassment. Like, this was a pretty dominant win for the Spurs. They won every single quarter, so like there was really no competition. And they did this without Wemby. Wemby, I think this was his 12th game out. So he was not playing, and yet the Lakers still lost. The Spurs were led by Stephon Castle, who had 30 points, looking like an all-star out there. Like, I didn't really believe in Stephon Castle becoming an all-star one day, even though he won Rookie of the Year last year. I didn't really see it, but like now, I could see it in the future. If like the Spurs are the number one seed, Victor and Stephon Castle could definitely make it together. But yeah, he definitely came through on this one with his 30 points. De'Aaron Fox, all-star point guard, had 20 of his own. I think the real, reason why the Lakers ended up losing Besides the defense was not great. But besides that, it was the bench contribution. The Spurs had 48 points off the bench, while the Lakers had 31. 26 of those points came just from Marcus Smart, who had an amazing game. 26 off the bench. That's impressive. But we needed more from Laravia and others, and we did not get that. So, yeah. It also does not help that Austin Reeves had a poor shooting night. Only 15 points from him on 16 shots. He could do a lot better than that. It sucks that when the games matter the most, he tends to not have the best games. Like, he's had some amazing games in the playoffs in the past, but he's also had some duds. And I know this is not the playoffs, but still, this game kind of matters more than a regular season game, and he did not come through. So, that's unfortunate. But shout out to the Spurs for winning this one. Impressive win, for sure. And then they ended up playing OKC this past weekend in Vegas. And this was by far the best game. The best game in this year's NBA Cup. Like, it really is no competition. Like, this was the best game. It was competitive. Maybe not at first, like, it was close, but like at one point OKC did have a 16-point lead. The Spurs made a 13 run to end the first half, so they made it a closer game. But yeah, this was close going towards the end of the game, especially in the fourth quarter. It was very fun to watch, very entertaining. They were going back and forth with like clutch threes from J-Dub, or not necessarily clutch, but like big threes, in the fourth quarter from J-Dub. Shea, of course, hit some impressive shots as he does. It was getting to the point where like the OKC defense was so insane. I was ready to slander Wemby, which I never do because he's my GOAT. I love Wemby. I be glazing him all the time. But there was several moments where I'm like, what are you doing? What the hell is going on? Because, like, Caruso was defending him well, was able to strip him, was even able to, like, out-rebound him at one point. I think Dort blocked, like, a dunk attempt from Wemby. I was, and, like, these are, I know they're, like, all NBA or all defensive guards, but they're still guards. Like, they're like a foot shorter than Wemby, and they were guarding him well. Maybe fouling as well, but still, they were guarding him so well. So I was ready to, like, talk about how Wemby needs to hit the weight room and, do all these things, but then he hit that fadeaway. He hit that fadeaway with Caruso all over him, basically fouling him the entire time. But, they weren't going to call it because it's OKC. Just draped over him. Wemby lost the ball at one point, got it again, went for the fadeaway on one leg. Awkward shot. He didn't really extend it all the way through. It was like a weird fadeaway. And it went in. Like, he had a nice lucky roll, and it went in. And once he made that, I immediately apologized to the basketball gods for ever doubting Victor Wembanyama. I apologize, dude. Like, I should have never doubted him because, damn, that was an amazing shot. Wemby did have a great game overall. Hit some important free throws towards the end of the game. Played some great defense. One of the most underrated defensive displays was this inbound play where OKC were trying to inbound, but like Wemby was in front of, I think, Caruso, and he's so tall and lengthy. Caruso could not get the ball in. Like, he couldn't inbound the ball, so they had to waste a timeout on that before actually inbounding the ball. And that ended up being crucial because they needed that timeout. But Wemby was able to help waste one of their timeouts. But yeah, this ended up being like a free throw fest towards the end, with Vassell and Castle on the Spurs side making all of their free throws, which helped them out a lot. Um, I think towards the end, Chet ended up missing one, which was crucial, of course, because they were behind. But yeah, like, it was such a close game, and it ended up, you know, towards the end of the game, uh, Vassell made his free throws, so the Spurs ended up being up three. They had no timeouts because they wasted a timeout earlier and then used another timeout later on. So they had no timeouts. They had to inbound it and make a three to tie the game. So J-Dub got the ball and started sprinting. But then Castle, with the smart move, ended up, doing a personal foul on J-Dub. So they did not have the opportunity to shoot a three. J-Dub had to go on the line. And, they're down three. And he only has 2 free throws. So he had to make the first one, miss the second one on purpose to hopefully get the offensive rebound and make the shot, which ended up happening. He made the first, missed the second on purpose. Somehow Caruso got it for like a running shot and ended up not missing it, and that was game. So the OKC winning streak ended up ending it there. I think it was like a 16-game winning streak, and it ended because of some impressive plays from the Spurs. Very smart way to end the game. I think their coach did a phenomenal job with that one. Caruso claimed that he was fouled. Maybe you can argue it was fouled, but come on, like, the Thunder foul all the time. You losing one game in Vegas, is not that big of a deal compared to all the fouling you've done all year. Like, come on. Like, I love Caruso. He's the bald eagle. Won a chip with my Lakers, but, like, come on. Like, there's no need to complain. You've been fouling the entire game. You fouled during the Wemby free fadeaway, and that wasn't called, right? So, like, let's relax a little bit, okay? But yeah, the streak ended. The Spurs ended up beating OKC, and now they are going to the NBA Cup Finals. So, congrats to the Spurs. One thing I did want to mention is there was this interview with Taylor Rooks, I believe, that Wemby had, and they were talking about Chet, which, like, mind you, like, Wemby destroyed Chet in this game. He absolutely bodied Chet throughout the entire game. I feel like that's what always happens when they meet up together. He had this nasty block on Chet. I think. Oh, Chet missed a free throw, and Wemby started cheering like crazy. Like, Wemby's not a fan of this guy, and you can tell with this interview. Taylor Rooks was talking about Chet and, like, how, I believe, like, difficult it is to guard him or whatever, to deal with him, and he ended up saying, the MVP's on the court. He is our main focus. Anybody is hard to guard when you have to help on the MVP. Basically, kind of dismissing Chet's offensive abilities and talking about how the only reason why he, like, is somewhat hard to deal with is because they have to focus on the MVP, Shea, which is, like, I don't see an issue with. I know Dirk has an issue with this comment. He didn't like how dismissive it was, but, like, it's true. Like, they have to deal with Shea, who is one of the best offensive players in the game right now. Like, what do you mean? Like, dealing with Chet? Like, he is at best the second option, but, really the third offensive option on the team. Like, not only does Wemby and the Spurs have to focus on Shea, but like, as Wemby said, but I feel like what Wemby also meant to say is that like his competition right now isn't with Chet. That's not the level he's at. He's surpassed Chet. He's in the conversations of MVPs. His competition is with the Shays in the world, the Jokic, the uh the Luka. His competition is with them, the Shays of the world, Luka, Jokic, Giannis. That's the competition. That should be the focus. I think that's what kind of annoyed him, not Chet. They're not on the same level. Like, they are not. Wemby is superior in all levels, and I think he knows that. So I think when he was asked that, like, that's why he was dismissive, because like, what do you mean? Like, OKC has a literal MVP on the court. That's the focus, not Chet. Wemby's been destroying Chet for years. Chet's over with. It's Shea time. That's the conversations Wemby should be in. Like, what are we doing? So, yeah, I know Dirk was not happy with that, but I understand what Wemby is trying to say, like, Shea is one of the best offensive players in the league. He has to help defend him. He can't focus his attention to Chet because of Shea. So, like, yeah, I really, I get it. I get what he's trying to say. Uh, Shea is the focus. He's the MVP. And Wemby should be in MVP talks. He should be in talks with the Shays and the Jokic, not with the Chets. Like, there's levels to it, and Wemby has surpassed the Chet level. So, yeah, the streak is over. The Spurs are going to the NBA Finals, or not NBA Finals, the NBA Cup Finals. My bad, against the Knicks, and maybe it's recency bias. Maybe this win over OKC is making me very delusional or whatever. But I think the Spurs are gonna win it all. Like, Wemby is super confident. They have an amazing roster of guys with Vassell and Castle and Fox. Harrison Barnes can come through here and there. Cornet has been solid. I know offensively, the Knicks are a juggernaut. There's no way they're stopping Brunson. However, I could see a case where maybe Towns get into some foul trouble. I could also see him just having a horrible shooting night, which will piss him off and cause some like stupid decisions to be made. Because I could see Wemby just destroying him when it comes to defense. And cook him offensively too. There's no way Cat is guarding him. And Mitchell's gonna be too slow. So yeah, the Spurs need a monster like Wemby game for sure. Like, he has to take advantage of the matchup, because no one will be able to guard him there. Maybe OG. OG might be the best option there, but even then, I don't know. But I could say the same on the other side. Like, Brunson needs to have like a crazy offensive game in order to get the win. So this is hard to say. I feel like I should go with the Knicks because they kind of proved that they are the better team throughout the season. They're a bit more proven. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year with basically the same lineup. I think this lineup is even better than what they had last season. However, I'm riding that Wemby wave. Like ever since I doubted him, I refuse to doubt him again. Like I gotta root for Wemby. So yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna say that Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs are gonna win the NBA Cup. Uh, I guess Wemby's gonna be the NBA Cup MVP. Or actually, who knows? Because it's for the entire tournament, and he didn't play against uh, the Lakers. That was Stefan Castle. How many points did Castle have against OKC? I'm looking. 22. Decent. This is hard to say. It might go to Castle. Victor Wembanyama had 22 that game. But he didn't have a 30 bomb against the Lakers like Castle did. I guess it depends on how dominant Wemby is against the Knicks. So we'll see. We'll talk about the game on Thursday. Upload the pod on Friday for y'all to watch and enjoy. But honestly, I might end it here. We're gonna cut things off early. I apologize for my lack of proper English. I had some blubbers, if that's a word, throughout the episode. But yeah, I don't know what to say. This is why I need hoops. Because sometimes I just start rambling or saying stuff that does not make sense. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I'll end it here. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the episode, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you are listening on an audio platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review. Give us a follow as well. That would be nice. That would be great. I think what was the last episode? We talked about our Spotify Wrapped creators thing, and how I was surprised that there were actual people that listen to our podcast. It's not just me, because sometimes I feel like it is just me, but on the contrary, there are people that watch the pod, which I'm very surprised about. But yeah, thank you for those who watch the pod. We'll have hoops back soon, very, very soon. But yeah, I guess I'll end it here before I start rambling some more. Make sure you check out the socials. But yeah, I'll end it here. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you very soon. Goodbye.